This past weekend, the LA Thieves took on the Minor 2 tournament where they ended up playing three matches against Cloud9, Royal Ravens, and Vancouver Surge in the grand finals. Prior to the tournament starting, when we were looking at the bracket, we definitely felt that the Thieves had the best opportunity to make it to the grand finals, knowing that on their side of the bracket, there really weren't the quote unquote top teams to go against the Thieves. The biggest challenges that we had on our side of the bracket were probably the teams that we faced in Cloud9 in our first round, and then Royal Ravens in the semifinals, which we ended up proving that both of those teams are still not on the same level as the top echelon teams like Thieves, FaZe, and as a shock, we came to find out Vancouver Surge. Before I get too ahead of myself, let's talk about the series that the Thieves played against Cloud9 New York. Now, this was a series that, looking at it, the Thieves should have won this pretty handedly, but coming into the tournament, Cloud9 started to look pretty good in multiple modes, and we were going to face off against them on triple vaults to start off the series, which are probably Cloud9's best maps when it comes to especially their search and destroy. And then they looked pretty good on it on hardpoint. That was the one map that Thieves ended up falling in, but the Thieves still won 3-1. And in the first one, they just didn't look quite like themselves. They had a pretty slow start to their series, and I guess you could say their tournament in some regard, just with that first map not going their way. They ended up losing that one 250 to 184. And then they went on to play Vault Search and Destroy, which was a little concerning to me because we hadn't seen them play much of Vault S&D since probably the last time they played FaZe, and they did not look great when they played FaZe on that S&D. At least the second time through. The first time they looked okay, but the second time we played them, we kind of got smoked. So I was a little concerned on how that would go, but the Thieves bounced back and they won that one 6-3. They looked a lot more comfortable than what they had the first couple times we had seen them play that map and mode. So that was nice to tie the series up at 1-1 apiece. They then went on to Vault Control, where once again the Thieves Vault, or the Thieves Control, sorry, is just on another level. I mean, they're the best control team in the game, and I feel like it's not really that close. Like FaZe is probably next up, but I still just feel like the Thieves are so comfortable on this control game mode. They ended up winning this one 3-0 in really convincing fashion. That took us to the Hacienda map 4, where the Thieves were able to close out the series pretty handedly, 250 to 109. Their Hacienda hardpoints look pretty solid as well, I would say. Their respawns in general are just really good for them. They look really good in all the respawns, and there's specific maps that definitely amplify that. I think Hacienda is one of them. Red Card is another one that the Thieves have looked good on. And then for the control maps, you have Hacienda, which is probably their number one. They look pretty good on Protocol as well. And then from what we saw this weekend, they did really well on Vault Control. So, like I said, their respawns are just looking fantastic. But as we get farther along, we'll start to notice that there is a positive trend looking back at the last tournament that the Thieves were in and how they look now, that they've definitely made some progress in their S&Ds, which is fantastic to see. That takes us to the semifinal matchup where the Thieves took on the Carolina Royal Ravens, and they ended up winning this one 3-0. They looked really, really good once they got to this series, and they pretty much dominated the entire thing. They won the map one vault hardpoint 250 to 165, and like I said, they looked comfortable doing it. They looked like they were locked in, and that respawns were going to be the toughest thing for any team to beat them on. And the part where they slowed down a little bit was probably their Hacienda Search and Destroy. They ended up still winning 6-5, as we said. They won 3-0, but they started off a little slower on the map 2, where they only won the first round, and then Carolina was able to rattle off 4 round wins in a row, putting us down 4-1. We ended up winning the next round, and then Carolina took the next one, putting us 5-2. And then after that, we were able to win 4 in a row to win the map 6-5. And the Thieves just showed how much they can adjust in moments. And it's great to see, knowing that our Search and Destroy really struggled in the Major 1 tournament, and we just haven't seen that same thing from them, which is great to see. We're hoping that this will translate to future matches as well as the Major 2 tournament. I would love to see that. So This is a really good start for the Thieves. They've looked really solid on their searches this past weekend. Obviously, it's still online, so that's kind of the hard part when it comes to judging them. But I mean, you had Scrap dropping 12 and 7, 1.7 KD, and Hydra 9 and 6 with a 1.5 KD. If we have Hydra back to kind of his normal self when it comes to search and destroy, I think this team is really set up for success, and I'm excited to see how it goes for the rest of the season. But that brings us to the third and final map, which was Hacienda Control, where once again the Thieves took this one really handedly with a 3-0 win. And Envoy was the guy who kind of led them in a lot of these control maps, I would say. They obviously all looked really good. You can't win any of your control maps 3-0 without most of your team looking pretty solid, but Envoy really did a great job in these controls. He ended up going 21 and 14 with a 1.5 KD in this one, and then you had Scrap not far behind him at 19 and 21 with a 1.58. Now, this one was a little bit of a slower map for Hydra and Ghosty as well, but both of them still broke even at the least, and it was a complete red carpet for the Royal Ravens. So that was really nice to see because the only chance that it seemed like the Ravens had to beat the Thieves was going to be in a Neslo, and really their search and destroy was kind of the only thing that was keeping them afloat because there was not really a way that they were going to win the control just with how good the Thieves have looked at it. There have been so many rounds this past weekend where the Thieves are just like so close to losing a round and they just find a way to ice up and close it out, which is kind of what happened in this one as well. They had several moments where it's like they're really running down the clock and they're just able to get a touch. And then next thing you know, they end up winning the round. So it was really big from them. Like I said, their control just looks on another level. But that takes us into the grand finals, where the Thieves ended up taking on the Vancouver Surge, which I'm sure most fans were not anticipating this matchup in the grand finals. I think a lot of people, especially me, thought that we were going to end up facing off against FaZe in the grand finals. So it was definitely a shock to see. And I didn't really know how this would go because the Thieves have not faced off against the Surge, especially since they got Neptune, which Neptune has had a huge impact on their team. So it was really interesting to see how this one was going to play out. And we started off on Hacienda Hardpoint, which once again, I really thought the Thieves were going to look really good on this map, knowing that our hardpoints had looked solid, and Hacienda is probably one of our better hardpoint maps. We ended up losing this one 250 to 187, and the Surge just looked really comfortable. Like the Thieves kept it close to start off the map, and then it just got to a point where Vancouver was able to chain everything and just keep the lead, and Thieves just didn't have a chance at breaking back into it. Thieves ended up having a complete red carpet on that one. It was a really tough one for them. They ended up just not looking like themselves. They weren't getting a lot of the trades, and Vancouver just had so much more pace, it seemed like. So Thieves were kind of playing on the back foot a little bit. That was definitely nerve wracking, knowing that up next we had a Vault S&D, which, as I said, this Thieves did look better on their last Vault S&D that they played in this tournament. But it's still tough when you just lost your best game mode or one of your best game modes, and now you have to go on and play the mode that a lot of people are deeming as your worst game mode. So it was definitely nerve wracking to say the least going into that Vault S&D, but the Thieves were able to close it out in a 6-5 fashion. The Vancouver Surge definitely made it tough on the Thieves. The Surge ended up having the lead towards the end. The Thieves had to rattle off two back to back round wins in order to win this one and take it to around 11. So definitely got very scary towards the end. Hydra once again 1.5 KD, Scrap 9 and 7 with a 1.29, and then Envoy 10 and 9 with a 1.1 KD. Ghosty was the only one to go negative, but even he was 7 and 8, so it really wasn't too bad. And then on the side of the Surge, everybody besides Abuzo was negative. Abuzo was 12 and 8. He was having a pretty solid map, but the Thieves were able to ice up and close that one out, tying the series before going into their best game mode, which is Control. The Control was once again a Vault Control, where the Thieves ended up taking this one 3-0. Now, despite the fact that it was a 3-0, I wouldn't say it was like handedly because each round was super, super close. The last two rounds specifically, we had two of them 2v5s where the Thieves were down in lives and were somehow able to close out the round. One of them, Hydra, had a big, like, basically 2v1 on the point before he was able to cap it. And then the round after that, Envoy had it was a 1v1 to close out the round. And I mean, the boys just got so hyped after that. You can see in kind of like their webcams after that map or after those round wins, the guys were so hyped. And it was great to see because you take a 2-1 lead, you're going into a hard point, things are kind of looking good for you guys. So it was super, super cool to see that. Envoy, like I said, had a huge map, 33 and 17, 1.94 KD. And then Hydra had a solid one as well, 22 and 17 with a 1.29 KD. And then on the side of Surge, the only guys who were positive were Abuza and Nasty, with a 1.0 from Abuza and a 1.17 from Nasty. But it was great to see the Thieves close that one out really, really quickly. Get that hype going into the next map because they definitely needed it. That was a vault hard point where we had seen the Thieves play vault a couple times this tournament and they looked really comfortable on it. But this Vancouver Surge team, man, they're different in these hard points. They were just flying around the map, and despite the fact that the Thieves had three guys that were positive, um, Vancouver was just able to take control right at the end there. You could argue that there was a really rough spawn that the Thieves got, where I believe it was Ghosty ended up spawning out at P2 when we were going into P4, and that kind of really broke the setup for the Thieves, which would have won them the round or won them the map. They were up 235 to 204 going into that hard point, and once Ghosty kind of spawned out, Surge was able to break their setup pretty easily, and then they ended up holding the time the rest of the way and ended up winning 250 to 237. So really unfortunate the way that all kind of played out, but it didn't seem like the Thieves' confidence really wavered too much. It was, as a fan, very nerve wracking to see, but they ended up, staying composed, keeping it close. And everybody on the side of Thieves was positive besides Envoy. He had a really tough map with a 0.58, and Scrappy dropped a 40 bomb, 41 and 31 for the loss, which is really, really tough to see. It would have been nice for us to win that one with him getting the 40 bomb. That would have put us up 3-1 in the series, but unfortunately, things just didn't go that way. And that leads us to the Search and Destroy map. What is this? Map 4, the red card, where the Thieves kept this one pretty close, but in the end, they weren't able to close it out. They ended up losing this one 6-4. And there were just a lot of like situations where it felt like they kind of made minor mistakes. And Vancouver kind of just took advantage of that. I think Vancouver had a little bit more of the pace going on. You also have O4 and Abuza, who both had a 2.0 KD going 10 and 5 each. So that definitely makes things a little tough. Envoy had another rough map with a -7. He was 3 and 10. So you don't love to see that. I've said before, I think Envoy is kind of like, I don't want to say he's like the playmaker, so to speak, but he's the guy that if he's out of it, it's a lot harder for the Thieves to win. And it sounds kind of crazy because obviously you have Ghosty, Hydra, and Scrap, who are all phenomenal talents. But I feel like Envoy is kind of that glue guy. And when he's playing really well, this Thieves team feels like it's damn near impossible to beat. So I think he has a very, very big impact on this team. And unfortunately, those two maps, this one and the one prior, he kind of struggled in. And I think that kind of held them back a little bit. Not saying that it's his fault, just his play has so much weight to it. So, like I said, Thieves ended up losing this one 6-4. And that puts us down 3-2 with game point going to the Vancouver Surge, which was pretty scary. But we had Hacienda Control up next. And this was where Thieves fans, I feel like we're kind of able to take a sigh of relief because it was like, all right, I feel like we're going 7 now because, like I said, our Hacienda control, our control in general has just been something else. It's been off the charts. And sure enough, the Thieves kept that rolling with another 3-0. Again, though, these were fairly close. They weren't just straight up bodied 3-0s. They were very close, tight knit rounds where the Thieves were barely able to get the edge on the Vancouver Surge. And luckily, we were able to close it out in 3-0 fashion. I think, again, bringing kind of the momentum more to the side of Thieves. Everybody on the side of Thieves besides Scrap was positive. He was the only one who went negative with a 0.82. Hydra 1.75, Ghosty 1.07, and then Envoy at 1.19. And then Nasty was the only one who was positive on the side of Surge with a 1.13. that leads us into the most scary part of this entire tournament, in my opinion, was Skyline Game 7 on Search and Destroy. We saw how that went at the major tournament where the Thieves just could not close out the Skyline S&D. And knowing that we had to do it again, I think was very nerve-wracking for me at least because I just wanted to see these guys win, man. They deserve it. They're working so hard and they're so good in so many game modes. It's just that S&D was what was struggling for them. And thankfully, the Thieves were able to lock it down, and they ended up winning the Skyline pretty convincingly, actually, 6-3. And Envoy again had a great map. He was 12-6, 2.0. Ghosty had a great map as well, 8-3 with a 2.67 KD. Hydro broke even, and Scrap was only -1, going 5-6. And then on the side of Vancouver Surge, Abuza and Nasty were the only guys to even break even, going 7-7 each. So this was a really, really big map and mode for the Thieves because I think this is going to spark some confidence knowing that we can play teams on Skyline S&D. And they broke the curse of the Game 7 Skyline. They broke Ghosty's curse of constantly finishing second. We finally got a championship under our belt. And yes, it's a minor tournament, so it's nothing crazy. I don't want to like blow it out of proportion by any means, but it's great to see the Thieves get a win under their belt. It's something. It gave them 30 points. They're now only 5 points behind FaZe when it comes to the overall league standings. So, really going into this major tournament, things could go in the Thieves' favor, which could help put them over FaZe in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, we still have a couple more matches leading into Major 2, but our first match actually is against the Vancouver Surge going into this coming weekend, where Vancouver Surge has a chance to get their get back. It's online once again, so you never know what can happen. I don't want to read too far into things because I know it's online, but I fully expect going into Major 2 that the Thieves are going to look even better than they do right now because it'll be on land. I feel like they'll be more comfortable. Thieves are historically a team that plays well on land, so fingers crossed that's actually the case. And on top of that, I'm going to be at the major, so I would love to see them, play really well at the very least. Ideally, I would love to see him get a win while I'm there. That would be super cool. But even on the side of Vancouver, we don't know how Vancouver is going to look when they're on land as well. Because if they can keep up what they're doing right now, and if not play even better, they're going to be a really scary team. I mean, that puts them top three in my books. I think it puts them top three in just about everybody's eyes. So they're going to be a scary team to face off against. But it was a great weekend of COD. Thieves, like we said, ended up bringing home the championship, even though it's just a minor tournament. The boys get $20,000 in their pocket, and they got the 30 extra CDL points to put them only 5 points behind Atlanta FaZe. That's going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed, please hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know what your guys' favorite part of this past weekend's tournament was. I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.